Goodness chums, it's all kicking off behind the scenes over in the land of Montecito. And as ever, the sort of reoccurring theme is always about what to do next and where to get the money from. And it's a difficult thing, isn't it, when you are now a celebrity couple? Normally in celebrity couples, let's be blunt, there's always one that's either sky high.
They are blaming each other. That is where this ends up. After the tours, the brand launches, the Netflix deals, the jam jars, the podcasts, the tell-all interviews, it ends with two people in a house in Montecito pointing fingers across the room. Harry blames the Australian tour for breaking something that cannot easily be fixed. Meghan's inner circle blames Harry for not being commercially useful enough. And a third person, someone who has been in that marriage longer than most people realize, is now caught in the middle of it all. How did it get here? That is what we are going to go through today, step by step, decision by decision, because the collapse of the Sussex commercial operation did not happen overnight. It happened in slow motion, in public, and the signs were there the entire time, if you knew where to look. Australia, the trip that changed everything. The Australia visit was supposed to be a reset. After months of commercial disappointment and a growing sense that the Sussex brand was losing altitude, this was the trip that would demonstrate something important, that Harry and Meghan still had genuine pull, real crowds, real interest, real commercial value in the real world, outside of streaming platforms and carefully curated social media moments. It did not go that way. The public speaking elements, the Invictus promotion, the charitable engagements, the veteran-focused appearances, those carried some genuine warmth. That is Harry's territory. He knows how to be in a room with people who have served, who have been wounded, who understand the world he came from. That part worked, to the extent that anything on this trip worked. The rest of it was a visible, documented, and ultimately very expensive mess. The event nobody wanted to buy a ticket for. Alongside the charitable schedule, there was a commercial component, a paid event, the kind of motivational, lifestyle-oriented gathering that has become a staple of the celebrity speaking circuit. The pitch was simple: pay for access, receive inspiration, leave feeling elevated. The problem was that the public did not buy it, literally. Ticket sales fell significantly short of what was needed to justify the costs involved. And here is the detail that reveals the full scale of the miscalculation. The organizers could not even give tickets away, because if complimentary tickets had been distributed and word had spread that people were getting in for free, the paying customers would have had every right to feel deceived, so the seats stayed empty rather than be filled on the quiet. Meghan reportedly spent time during public appearances offering photographs to people she encountered, selfies, personal moments, exactly the kind of exclusive access that the paid event was supposed to provide. The commercial product and the free public behavior were directly undermining each other. Harry, according to sources, saw this happening in real time. He knew before the numbers came in that this particular venture was not working. The body language at that event, slightly removed, visibly uncomfortable, told its own story to anyone paying close attention. The Invictus fallout. Nobody announced. Now here is the consequence that has received almost no coverage, and it matters enormously. The Australian government, which had been in discussions about financial support for an Invictus Games event in the country, has pulled back from those conversations. The millions that were being discussed are no longer on the table. Think about what that means. Invictus is the one thing in Harry's post-royal life that carries unambiguous legitimacy. It is not a brand exercise. It is not a content play. It is a genuine endeavor that does real good for real people. It is the founded ion of whatever credibility Harry still has on the international stage. The Australian commercial disaster did not just embarrass them in the moment. It has now created a direct financial consequence for the thing Harry cares about most. The association between the Sussex name and poor commercial returns has now reached a point where governments are factoring it into their own decision-making. That is a serious escalation, and it is one that Harry is acutely aware of. To understand what is happening inside the Montecito household right now, you need to understand something about its structure that rarely gets discussed directly. There are, effectively, three significant presences in this marriage: Harry, Meghan, and a man named Marcus, Meghan's closest advisor, longest-standing confidant, and the person most deeply embedded in her professional thinking. Every other close relationship in Meghan's life has eventually reached a breaking point. Friends who were prominent in her earlier years have quietly disappeared from the picture. Family members have been cut off. Professional relationships have ended with varying degrees of acrimony. The pattern is consistent enough that it has become a defining feature of how she operates. Marcus has survived all of it, and the reason is straightforward. He was there from the beginning, not just as a friend, but as a strategic partner. He knows the full history of the plans, the ideas, the ambitions, and the decisions. He has been instrumental in shaping Meghan's career from the ground up. Initially, by all accounts, Harry and Marcus had a workable relationship. They could spend time together. There was a functional dynamic. That dynamic has now become a complication. Because inside a marriage where things are going wrong financially and professionally, the presence of a third person with that much influence and that much history creates an obvious tension. Harry is, at heart, someone who wants a relatively simple life. Connection, purpose, outdoor space, people who are straight forward with him. The constant commercial strategizing, the brand management, the pivot and relaunch approach to every setback, that is not his natural environment. And the gap between what Harry is comfortable with and what the Meghan Markle operation requires of him is, by reliable accounts, getting wider. The blame game in full swing. Here is where things stand right now, according to sources with genuine knowledge of the situation. Harry's position, not stated publicly but expressed privately, is that the Australian trip went wrong at the point where the charitable and Invictus elements were bundled together with the commercial event. His instinct had been to keep this visit focused, charitable engagement, veteran support, the kind of appearance that generates goodwill rather than ticket revenue expectations. The addition of the paid event, the best life element, changed the entire character of the trip. It shifted the public perception from Harry supporting veterans to Harry and Meghan selling something. And once that shift happened, every empty seat was a story. He knew this. Sources suggest he raised concerns before it happened. Those concerns were not acted upon. Meghan's position, channeled through her circle, is different. The argument being made is that Harry has not done enough to make himself commercially viable as an individual. That his reluctance to fully commit to the kind of personal branding that generates real revenue has been a consistent limitation, that his instinct to retreat toward charitable work, admirable as it is, does not pay the bills in Montecito. Two people, two positions, neither entirely wrong, both pointing at the other. Let's step back and look at the numbers honestly, because the financial reality here is not vague. The Montecito estate carries significant costs. Security alone is a multi-million-dollar annual commitment. And without the support of the British Crown or any government, that falls entirely on Harry and Meghan. The lifestyle, the staff, the travel, the professional operations, all of it requires continuous, substantial income. The Spotify deal is gone. The Netflix relationship is producing less than was originally promised. Speaking fees have declined. The Australian numbers did not meet projections. The Jam brand has not scaled into the commercial force it was positioned as. At some point, and sources suggest that point is approaching, the gap between the income being generated and the costs being carried becomes impossible to paper over with optimistic projections and careful messaging. Harry's New Statesman pieces on anti-Semitism and global affairs, however sincerely intended, do not change the financial picture. Thoughtful op-eds do not pay security bills. The question being asked inside that house, with increasing urgency and increasing tension, is a very simple one. What comes next? And who decides? The late Queen's judgment, and why she was right. There is something the late Queen Elizabeth said, privately, according to those who were present, that has stayed with people who heard it. She saw, clearly and early, that Harry was someone who could be led, not in a cruel sense, in a concerned sense. She watched someone she loved make decisions that felt, to those who knew him, like they were not entirely his own. And she understood that the institution could not protect him from the consequences of choices he was making freely, as an adult. Just let it play out, was her counsel. Do not chase. Do not negotiate. Wait. It has played out. The video from that early period, the one Harry reportedly wishes had never been made, the one where he speaks about escape and freedom and starting over, that video exists. The words are said, the decisions were made. And now, in a house in California, two people who were supposed to be building something together are working. Out, in real time, whose fault it is that the building is cracking. The answer, of course, is both of theirs, but that is rarely a satisfying conclusion when the pressure is this high and the stakes are this real. That is the full picture behind the Australia fallout, the blame, the money, the three-person dynamic, and the question that nobody in Montecito has a clean answer to yet. I want to know what you think. Is there a version of this where Harry and Meghan find a way to stabilize things? Or has the damage, commercially, institutionally, personally, gone too far? Drop your take in the comments. Genuinely, I read them all, and this community always cuts through the noise better than anyone. Not subscribed? Fix that right now. Bell on. Because the next video connects everything we have been discussing, the legal pressure, the financial picture, and what July could actually look like for Harry on British soil. That one is not to be missed. See you there.